So it's all been a bit high powered recently because as I'm about to start the video, I've realised that I'm actually missing the embossing folder that I'm going to use. So as you can see, Ollie's looking very intently as to where it could possibly be. It probably won't surprise you to find that it was literally on the desk under my nose, but there you go. Hi there, it's Anne of Rosie Duck Designs here. Thanks ever so much for joining me today. It's yet another really sunny day, so I'm hoping that the light isn't going to affect the video too much. I've got to say, it's crazy weather at the moment. I'm not complaining because it's absolutely beautiful, but you can't help wondering if we haven't seen the last of winter. Anyway, as I said on my last video, I wanted to spend some time using the new Sale-A-Bration products that became available from the 15th of February. So I've been using them and playing with them over the weekend. And the first one that I want to share with you is the embossing folder, which is this one, the Country Floral Dynamic Impressions Embossing Folder. Feeling I might sneeze. Which is here, the elusive embossing folder. I think it was kind of stuck to the stamp set, but there you go. And this is one of the dynamic folders, which means that the embossing that is produced from this folder is very 3D, and I did share these two pieces of card that I'd just randomly embossed with it rather that on the last video, so you can see there's some beautiful embossing on this. And this is a card that I've made, and I'm just going to make a variation of that today for you. That's the plan anyway. Let me put that there for safety. So I'm going to use Highland Heather as my card colour, and I've already embossed this piece of card, and that is cut at 3 3/4 by 5 3/4. I've got my usual base card in Whisper White, and that is cut at 8 by 6, scored at 4 on the long side, and then just making that fold nice and crisp with your bone folder. So there are the two bits that I want to use for the front. I've got another piece of Highland Heather at 3 3/4 by 5 3/4, and a piece of Whisper White at 3.5 by 5.5 for the inside where the message is going to be written. I've got this additional piece of Highland Heather, again cut at 3 3/4 by 5 3/4, because I just wanted to, I've obviously run this through the Big Shot, I just wanted to share with you how I've lined this up with my folder. Now there's a reason, which will become clear later, that I want this rose, so this rose, I want that central on my piece of paper. So if you line it up literally squared onto the folder, the rose, if you can see, is a little bit off center, so I'm moving it just across, obviously, so I'm still within the lines of the folder where you've got the embossing. But if you can see that when that is embossed, that rose is going to be a lot more central, and then basically you just move that down slightly. You then just fold up your embossing folder, and then you run it through your Big Shot. Now when you've got a big a textured embossing folder, you just need your Big Shot plate, or Big Shot platform rather, your embossing folder, and then the plastic sheet over the top, which I can't think what the name is, but anyway, so you just run that through, and then you get your embossed piece of card. So obviously, before we go any further, this is a level 1 reward, and that is yours with a qualifying order of £45, excluding postage and packing. Obviously, without a big shot, this is useless. So if you haven't got a big shot and have no plans of getting one at the moment, this isn't for you. But bear with me on this, because I do want to come back and just talk about a big shot a bit later on. So the next thing I'm going to do, again involving a big shot, is I'm going to use one of the layering oval framelits. Now these are £33. Now if you've watched my previous videos, or some of my previous videos, you'll see I've used these before. I love this set because you've got the crinkled edge and you've got the plain edge, and the two interlink in the sense that you can have a crinkled bit and then you can put a smaller one of these in the middle to build up your central element of your card. There are also available are a layering circles framelit set, again £33, and there's a layering squares framelit set. I personally went for the ovals. I like the shape of that. In the ideal world, it would be lovely to have all of them, but even with my demonstrator discount, I really can't run to that, so I went for that shape. There is another option which I just wanted to share with you. Somewhere on here. It's on here somewhere, but it's this one, the Stitch Shapes framelit dies. Just seem to have disappeared. But this, I think, is a really good set, and this is £28, and you've got a nice selection there of circles, ovals and squares. So again, I found that was really good because you've got an option of your different shapes there. And again, I have highlighted this before, but when your dies come to you, they're on a piece of paper and they are stuck to the piece of paper, so you can easily get them off, but it's what you then do with them afterwards. And these magnetic sheets, which are very reasonable, and you can get them on from Amazon, they're brilliant for holding your dies in place so you don't lose them. Nothing's worse than losing one of these out of the set. So I'm going to put that safely back in its wallet, and I'm going to take from this the very largest one that there is in the set. These are very similar, but that one is very slightly smaller, so I want the biggest one. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that piece of my card out of the I'm going to cut that piece of card out of this embossed sheet. So I need to run that through the big shot, so if we could just pause for a moment just while I do that, and then I will be back. Okay, so forget everything I said in the last 2 minutes. I'm looking at the card that I wanted to share next with you and getting myself confused, so I was waffling on about this die. Actually, for this card I wanted this die, so this is the biggest one of the crinkled oval, so I've actually cut the right thing out using my big shot. It doesn't take much to confuse me, as you all know. I have had coffee. I clearly should have brought more up with me rather than water. So put those away safely. Now this is the bit that's cut out, and this I'm going to use on another card because this is far too pretty in my opinion to just throw away in the bin. So I'm going to put that somewhere safe and try not to lose that. So I've got my, there we go. Oh, this is, you never know what's going to happen, do you, in my videos? I'll let you into a secret, neither do I. I think Ollie's probably got the best idea. He's sleeping his way through it. So I'm going to put together my card by putting the inside in first. So I'm just attaching that in with, as usual, some Snail. As I said, there are thousands of professional videos out there on YouTube. So if you want a laugh, then watch mine. So that's my background card for the inside of the card. Now in this one, I'm actually making a get well card. Sometimes, hopefully not too often, but there are times when you need a get well card, and it tends to be when you're least expecting it, so it's always nice to have a couple in reserve. And I'm using this stamp set here, which is the Healing Hugs, and it's one of the distinctive stamp sets. So these two stamps are the new distinctive stamps, which are exclusive to Stampin' Up, and they give you this really beautiful detail in the stamp. So that is the stamp on that one, and that is in Unsurprisingly Lovely lipstick. I was tempted to carry on using that, but I thought no, we'll go with a different colour. Now this is one of the older clear mount stamps, so we're back to the lip salve to attach it to our block. And the clear mount version of this stamp set is £20. It's amazing how we all get used to new things very quickly, and I got this out yesterday when I was making the card and thinking, oh, it's a bit much and it doesn't stick to my block, and I've got to get the lip salve out again. So I've got a D block here because that works also for my flower, and I'm using Highland Heather ink to coordinate with the front of the card. I'm just going to stick that in the middle, slip slightly. That off on my chamois. The only problem now when they're not clean, I've obviously got to clean the back when I take that off. I said we'd all get used to them very quickly. So let me stick that onto the inside of my card. I've got to say, I feel like I'm sitting here getting a suntan. It's ridiculously hot. Either that or I'm going to melt. So that's the easy bit. Now I've got a stamp that I want to stamp in the middle of that card, in the middle there. Now yesterday I did take a chance and just stamp through the middle. I'm not going to chance that today. On that basis, then I can always put it right if it goes wrong, if that makes any sense. So I'm lining that up basically where I want it, and I'm just using a couple of post-it notes just to keep that secure. But I've not obviously now glued this onto my card, so if I mess this bit up I can rectify it by adding another piece of card without having to emboss and everything. You can tell I've got no faith or confidence in my ability, but we all know it can go wrong, and it generally does when I'm doing a video. I have a box and boxes of cards that I've actually managed to do quite correctly, but there's something about that thought of it being on a video and you think, oh, it's bound to go wrong. And let's face it, it quite often does. But I mean, yeah, okay, if you stick ink really where you shouldn't, then it's hard. Or if you drop your card across your ink pad, is rather what I'm trying to say, then you can't normally get away with that. But most times there are ways around it. There's an embellishment or something or the other you can stick over the top of it. So generally speaking, all is not lost. So that one worked. Let's hope it works in the actual card. So I'm just going in the centre there. Drum roll, I think, Ollie. No, drum rolls. Celebratory, something or the others. Huge sigh of relief on my part. So now, having secured that, just down with the post-it notes, and it actually worked, I can now stick this onto the front of my card. Now, because you've got the embossing elements on this card, just make sure you put enough glue on it, because obviously certain areas are going to be slightly raised. So I'm going to line that up across the front. I think the other two are downstairs watching, we've got various wildlife running around in the garden at the moment. Squirrels intent on digging up the lawn and trying to dig up the new flower pots that we've just put out there. So far so good. And I want to just add a couple of little extras to that. Some Wink of Stella. Now if you can see that in the camera, you can see the distinctive element of this stamp set. So you've got the darker elements here, although it's the same ink colour, you've got darker bits here, and then obviously lighter bits, so giving you the depth of that flower. And what I'm going to do with the Wink of Stella, I'm just going to pick out some of the darker bits. I'm not going to go over the whole top of it, but just again so that it just catches, when it catches the light, which probably won't show on camera, but it just catches the light when the card is sort of standing up, just to give it that little bit of extra detail. Now there's no right or wrong way of doing this, just basically do what you think. But it's a kind of a case of less is more in this instance. Normally I would just go straight all over an image and make it as shimmery as possible, but with this one I'm looking for something that's a little more not in your face, because it's quite delicate colours and quite a delicate little card. I have to say I've had a great weekend playing with my new Sale-A-Bration items. All three are really fabulous rewards. So as I said before, the three latest one, two of them are a level 1 reward, and there is one further level 2 reward. So I will be attempting to feature all three during the course of this week, so do come back and join me to have a look at these new products and just to get some ideas how to use them. The trouble is, with the curtains drawn to keep the sun out, I can't see if that's enough. Need a little bit more in the middle, I think. Unfortunately, I really don't think this is going to show up, but I'm struggling to actually see where I'm pushing it. Trouble is, if we draw the curtain, the sun will just take over and you won't see anything anyway. I don't honestly think that's going to show up. No, I'm getting a not a nod of the head, the movement in the opposite direction. But trust me, it is there. I don't know if it shows up better on this one. That show up any better? Maybe a little, but just to give you a bit of an idea, I've just picked out, as I said, the darker elements of that, and so that when the card does catch the light, you can see it around here, but unfortunately you're around there. So I don't know if you no, I don't think it is. Never mind, it is on there. So I'm just going to finish that off with some of these little enamel, glitter enamel dots. Now the Gorgeous Grape, these, I love these. Lovely Lipstick, Granny Green Apple, Coastal Cabana and Gorgeous Grape. Now the Gorgeous Grape coordinates really well with the Highland Heather. So I'm just going to take about 3 of these little dots and just place them in the middle of those flowers, like the little daisy almost type flower. I've only got 2 of those, so let me just go. It's always better if you can to go with odd numbers. Just trying to think where that would work the best. Perhaps I'll put it over there. I think it might work better there. Yeah. So that's my card. I didn't do the envelope, so let's just do that. Again, using the Highland Heather annual stamp. And I'm just going to partially stamp this onto the envelope. And again, I'm just going to add a little bit of Wink of Stella. And I'm not going to be as fussy with this. I just want the envelope to coordinate a little bit with the card. And just give it a little bit of that wow factor when a person receives the card. Bearing in mind it's a get well card, I thought it'd be quite cheery to have something, you know, quite shimmery and hopefully give them a sense of the idea of getting better very soon. If that makes any sense. So that just coordinates again with your card. Hello. Movement. I thought you had a wash 5 minutes ago, or 10 minutes ago. So I'm cleaning my stamp off again with my chamois, and I will get those off later and clean the backs of the stamps. So that's the card for today, using the embossing folder. Now, as I said, I've got this piece that I've saved from where I've cut it out there, and the idea is that I want to share with you next time this little card, which is basically how I've used the bit I've cut out. So again, if you notice, we've kept the theme of simple stamping, although we have obviously introduced a big shot, which leads me to the idea of a big shot. It is obviously a big piece of equipment, and it's not a cheap thing to buy, and it may be a case that it's something you've always wanted but haven't got round to getting it yet. Now, on my previous video I did talk about the Sale-A-Bration offer of becoming a demonstrator, and normally your starter kit would cost you £99, and for that you get to choose £130 of products, which is great. Now the big shot costs £102. So if you take that away from 130, you've got £28 left to spend. So in effect that would buy you the stitched framelits that I talked about earlier, but that would be it. Now during Sale-A-Bration you get to choose £170 worth of products, so that is an extra £40 for your £99 starter kit. So you also get that sent to you without any charge of postage and packing. So if having a big shot is something you've been wanting to do, this seriously is a really good time to consider it, because for that £170 you could, of products, you could get your big shot, you could get yourself a nice set of dies that you could use as we've done on the cards today. As I said, these are 33, these are 28. So 28 and 102 is £130. So if you went with that for argument's sake, you'd still got £40 left to spend on other products such as ink pads and things like that. So it's well worth a thought of joining up as a demonstrator. Now, I know that that can sound a bit scary, and what am I committing to and all the rest of it. Seriously, there are no strings attached. I know we're warned, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is, but I have to say in this instant it isn't. So if, having tried it and it's not working and you're not able to meet the minimum, because there are certain minimums you have to meet, but if you join now, for example, you wouldn't have to meet that minimum until the end of May, I think. January, February, March, April, May, no, June. So you've got 4 and a bit months to do that target. If you don't reach it, you then spend a month in pending, giving you an opportunity to make up that shortfall. And if you haven't done that by the end of it, you just stop being a demonstrator. No questions asked, and that's the end of it. During that period of time, you've had the opportunity to buy all your products with a discount. So it is really seriously worth giving some consideration to. If you've got any questions, there is a contact me link at the front of the video. Do please use it. I'm happy to answer any questions that you've got. And also bear in mind there is a second joining option during Sale-A-Bration, and that is £125, for which you get the craft and carry tote bag, which I did highlight at the end of the last video. And that again is a really lovely bag. It's worth £47, and I can confirm that as demonstrators we could buy it prior to Sale-A-Bration, but we did have to pay £47 for it. So for an extra £26 on your starter kit of £99, you get that lovely bag. So there's two options. Now, of course, if you go that route, in your first order you wouldn't qualify for the embossing folder that I've been highlighting. You would obviously have the option to buy that with a separate order once you've signed up as a demonstrator. But we have got lots of different embossing folders in the catalogue, and they are over here. Now the type that we've been using today are the 3D dynamic textured impressions embossing folders. So it's all these sort of salmon colour ones, and I've just embossed through this one, the layered leaves, just to give you an idea. So it may be that £170 is your first order and that will see you right through until May, whatever, in which case you wouldn't be able to get this one during Sale-A-Bration. But as I say, there is lots of other options, and if you're thinking the big shop, for example, is where you want to go, then there's plenty of options for different embossing folders. There are some the standard textured ones, so they've not got as much embossing detail on them, and you can see these are all the darker orange ones, but again very, very pretty, so lots of choice. So I'm hoping that's all made a bit of sense. As usual, the links for my online shop where you can browse the catalogue and of course shop will be on the front, as will the product details, and a link if you do want to join up and join my team. So as I say, I'll be back to share with you the next card that I highlighted earlier, so this one. And until then, all that's left to say is thanks ever so much for joining me, and I will see you again very soon. Take care, bye.